Welcome to the Princess Trust and Boots Joy of the Journey Masterclass. Today is about empowering young women. It's specifically about empowering you. I am your host, Anna Whitehouse. I'm the founder of Motherpucker, which is a platform for people who happen to be parents. But I also am the founder of Flex Appeal, which is a campaign lobbying government to make work for you. So in the wake of International Women's Day, I am seriously delighted to be joined by an incredible panel of women who are going to speak up and open up about what it has taken them to combat the challenges in finding work and retaining that work. 2 words: imposter syndrome. I don't think there is anyone in this room who isn't feeling that. And how to get over those challenges in the workforce. Remember that the Princess Trust is always on hand if you want support with your CV, if you would like support with your career, they are there, along with Boots, who has brilliantly supported the Princess Trust in empowering, upskilling young people to find the work they want. Now, for you watching, this is not a passive panel. This is not just about us, it's about you. If you stick around to the end, there is a brilliant competition for you to win a £100 Boots voucher. So definitely stick around. And for now, let's get stuck into the joy of the journey.
Yeah, I'm Jess, I'm 24. I'm a mum of a 3-year-old. I'm now a Princess Trust Young Ambassador.
I have a 3-year-old daughter and I'm also a Princess Trust Young Ambassador.
And I'm Emily Hughes, and I've been working either for Boots or part of Walgreens Boots Alliance, parent company, for 10 years.
I'm Barbara, and I started Princess Trust in November last year. I'm at Boots, and I'm still working it.
So Jess, I wanted to just begin with you. So you were unemployed when you turned to the Princess Trust. Could you just describe what life was like before that moment?
Yeah, so basically it was only in COVID that I started experiencing issues with my mental health. I had a lot of trauma as a kid, but it didn't seem to really start affecting me until my adult life, after I had my daughter. So I had to leave work at the start of 2022 because of my mental health. I was beyond myself. I didn't know what to do with my time. I was used to, obviously, my little one being in private nursery and me being out the house all day, so it was very different for us. So it was really nice for me, and the Princess Trust helped me at the time that I needed them the most.
What was the moment you found the Princess Trust?
I was just scrolling through social media one day, literally just laying there, just scrolling, and it just came up on my Facebook page, and I thought, do you know what, that's actually something I need.
Because you got involved in the Get Started with Confidence and Wellbeing course, is that correct? Yeah, so I'd be honest, I'd be a bit put off by something telling me it can give me confidence, you know? You were like, I don't think I can get there. Were you sort of sceptical going in, and how did it change things for you?
Yeah, I was really sceptical going in because my anxiety was already so bad, so I was used to just staying at home and not having to go out and face challenges of day-to-day life. So yeah, when I got there, I was really apprehensive. I didn't know anyone. The only common denominator was that everyone was in the same boat. So it made me feel a little bit more comfortable. It made me feel that I weren't alone.
And you two met through the Princess Trust, is that right? Yeah, are you mates?
Yeah.
It'd be awkward if I asked that and you weren't. She no, not at all. So how did you meet?
On the same course.
Oh, you were on that course together?
Yeah, on that course together, yeah.
Can you just talk us through how it happened? Like, because I always find it really awkward meeting new people. I think we've got a click. How do I talk to her? What was the moment?
It was like a questionnaire that we had to fill in, where we had to include everyone that was in the group, and it asked loads of questions. And it said, one of the questions at the bottom was, who would you consider a friend, like outside of the Princess Trust? And I put Keris, and Keris put me. So I looked at it, I was like, does that mean we're friends now?
So how did the Princess Trust help you? Like, what support did you sort of value the most, would you say?
Probably my younger life. I had like a really, really tough situation. I was trafficked when I was younger, like 13 to 14. And then my therapist was like, oh, there's Princess Trust. And because of them, I'm actually in a room with men. Like before Princess Trust, you wouldn't even catch me in a room with like one single man, and there's 2 in here and I'm fine. So it's like, completely changed my outlook.
Abra, I'd love to come to you next. So you recently completed a Get Into Retail course with Boots, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what made this course sort of stand out to you?
I didn't have any prior work experience, so I was trying to get into work for almost a year with the job center. They sent me to a program called Restart. I didn't have any luck there either. So that program finished, so I went back to the job center journal, and they usually post jobs there, and then they post about the Princess Trust program. So I thought, why not visit 2-week work experience? At least I can gain some 2-week experience.
And what did it feel like the moment you got that job at Boots?
I felt delighted.
How did you celebrate?
I'm going to a cafe.
Fair enough. Obviously, Emily is part of Boots, and you're part of a very special group at Boots that I'm fully behind, champions people in obviously caring positions, and that can be anything from caring for a parent with Alzheimer's right the way through to caring for a newborn baby and navigating what we are at the moment with 3-year-olds, and you too, Emily. What does the group involve at Boots?
So the purpose of it initially was to create a community of people to support each other. As you say, a wide spectrum of people that we support, and like pretty much everyone has some form of caring responsibility at some time in their life. But it felt like it was something that you had to try and manage kind of on the side, or sometimes secretively, or hide it from your job. So it's about trying to bring people together, support them at work, give them access to the resources and the support that exists, and just be like a listening ear to people so that you don't feel so isolated, and you understand that other people are going through the same challenge of trying to balance personal responsibilities outside of work and caring for others and having a job at the same time.
I think that's something that I have noticed since working with the Prince's Trust, is the word that often is left off the table is EQ, emotional intelligence, instead of looking at what hasn't someone got, work experience or qualifications, what do they have? Like, what do they have as a person to bring to the table? And I love that. I've worked with Boots before, and that EQ, along with IQ, is such a big part of the conversation. And how have you seen the difference in the people that you employ? Like, have you got any sort of case studies you can share with us?
I mean, so the group launched about 3 months ago, and even in that time, we've had so many people come to us saying that even just knowing that this group now exists has given them a real boost, a real confidence that they've got a voice in the business. They're kind of not hidden and having to go about these things on their own. And also they've just now made links with other people in the business who've got similar experiences. One of the kind of groups of people we've heard a lot from are those who had their first child during COVID. It's a pretty unique experience. COVID was pretty isolating in its own right. Having your first child can be a pretty isolating and lonely experience. So trying to do the two together has been really challenging, and it's been really nice for some of those people to be able to talk to each other and kind of share experiences and know that there's also someone just sitting a couple of desks away that can understand what they're going through and the challenges that they've faced.
And I think that's, to anyone who's listening right now, that's the biggest thing I think we can, as people, whether within the Prince's Trust or outside of it, can give, is that buddy system. You know, because I think if you can see other people who have come through something and are sitting there having received a job when you've been told a million times that you haven't got the work experience for it, you see that there's a blueprint to be able to succeed. The Prince's Trust has recently launched its Youth Index report, which tracks young people's happiness, and it has revealed that the cost of living uncertainty is affecting how young people feel about the future. The hardest stat in this, when I read through it, was that 52% of young women have lowered their expectations for the future due to rising costs, and 38% think a lack of self-confidence is the biggest barrier. What we want to talk about today is what are the factors that affect that lack of self-confidence? You know, imposter syndrome, to be honest, even getting to that job. And so I suppose if we say, where do we get started? Let's get started here. So I'd love to start with you, Jess. So obviously you heard the stats from the Youth Index. I think, you know, there's a lot of fear as recession looms, lack of self-confidence, specifically in women. Do you sort of share those concerns, and what sort of stood out for you in that?
Yeah, I think it's harder through motherhood as well, with the cost of living crisis, because childcare is not cheap, which is a big part, obviously, of women getting back into work after kids. So I think that the cost of living has affected young people as well as older. I completely agree.
As a mother, what's been the sort of toughest bit?
I'm a carer for my mum as well, so it's hard for me to juggle between being a mum and being a daughter as well as trying to find my own foot to my own future, which I didn't really think was possible before the Prince's Trust. But yeah, I started swimming and here I am.
What would you say to anyone listening right now is your sort of top tip for positive well-being, I suppose?
I would say definitely step out your comfort zone and just try and build on your confidence. Don't be afraid to say no. That was a big thing for me. I'm big on emotions and guilt, so it was not being able to say no, was building my responsibilities higher. But the biggest part is just don't dwell on your past. That's the one thing that I learned through the Prince's Trust course, is that your past doesn't have to define your future.
Oh my word. I feel like you need your own inspirational Instagram account because I need to hear these things every day. And obviously, Keris, you two are very good friends. You've both got 3-year-olds. We're all in the eye of the storm at the moment. What was your experience of finding a job as a mother?
Impossible.
Yeah.
Because if I was to get a job, all my wages would go on childcare. And it was like, do I work to prove to my daughter that I can work and then be left with like hardly anything in the house, or do I stay at home and then be able to afford everything? So it's like trying to figure out the pros and the cons. So I'm just in uni at the minute, so I don't think I want to work just yet. I quite like being a stay-at-home mum.
How are you finding going to uni and managing childcare? Because it's not like that you're just a stay-at-home. I say just. I hate the word just. Like, oh, you're just a stay-at-home mum, or you're just this. Like, no, it is a full-time role. This is what is hard, is that you need to provide for your family. Like, it's not a luxury to go whether you want to go to work or not. So how do you manage uni with childcare?
So I do uni when my daughter's in playgroup, when she naps and when she's in bed. So I'm usually up to like 1-2 o'clock just doing uni work, and then she wakes up at 3.
What are you studying?
Geology.
Amazing.
I'm like a proper rock nerd, so.
Do you ever have imposter syndrome on that course? Do you ever think, what am I doing here?
Every day.
Really?
Yeah. Because I've got a bit of like mental health, like quite a bit of mental health issues. So my PTSD sometimes plays up, and then I'm like, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm done. And then the next day I'm like, I can do it. And then again, I'm like, I'm done. So it's like back and forth.
And in those I'm done moments, what do you do to sort of get yourself back on track? Do you have anything in your arsenal?
I guess I just go and hug Phoebe. Like, she's literally my rock. So I go to her. She's like strokes my hair. Like, she's so sweet for a 3-year-old. As much as I don't like the tantrums, she's my baby and she always will be, so.
And do you find those moments are the fuel almost to keep going? Abra, I'd love to come to you. What gave you the courage to sort of join Boots Get Into Retail course through the Prince's Trust?
I found it on the job center journal, but the reason I wanted to join was because just staying at home and not studying, not being employed, makes you feel unproductive, and after a long time you're gonna start to feel depressed. So I feel like I wasn't doing much with my life. So
if you don't mind me asking, did you feel depressed before that point?
I was feeling okay. I was like, oh, I'm gonna just stay home, not do anything, it's fine. Like, you know, when you finish school, when you finish college, you just want to stay home and just sit and relax. But after a while you just start feeling unproductive, and time is just gonna go by. You're not gonna do anything with your life. So
what was the turning point for you where you thought, I'm going to do something?
The turning point was depression, actually.
It was, okay.
When you start feeling lethargic. So I thought I have to do something, and job center also started to push me, like every appointment when they're like, have you found work? And I'm like, no, I'm trying. So yeah.
And so you needed that support around you to help. And do you think your depression has been impacted by having this job? Have you felt happier?
Yeah, I feel like I'm doing something now. And it's like a stepping stone as well for you to do something better in the future.
What advice do you have to anyone right now who is feeling, you mentioned lethargy, depression, an inability to see a way forward? What advice would you give to them, the person that was sitting in your position?
Try to keep a journal and always set goals. If you're not going to set any goals, you're not going to go forward. So yeah, that would be my advice.
And one of the things, Emily, that we've obviously been talking about is mental health issues are so interlinked with our ability to succeed at work. And I think they're so prevalent in young women who've been through difficult situations. You know, do you feel comfortable now having those open conversations about family and home life?
I do, yeah. I'm really open with my team and with everyone I work with. I work 4 days a week. I work Monday to Thursday, and people know that. I tell them if there are meetings set for Friday, I say I can't make that, I don't work on Fridays. So I'm very comfortable saying that, including like when I've got to leave at certain times to pick up the kids. I feel like it's part of me. My team know about my family and my kids. They're such an important part of me. So to kind of hide that wouldn't feel very authentic. I did used to find when kids were ill, which is definitely one of the most challenging times when you're trying to work and look after kids, and then they're ill, you can't plan for that I would be kind of trying to hide it and have them in the background, you know, turn the camera off and try and like uphold all my responsibilities at work, and then try and look after your child who's kind of clinging to you and doesn't want to be left alone.
It's that nightmarish jigsaw puzzle of, right, earn money, do thing for me, look after child, look after mother. It
is. You feel like you're doing none of it well in the end because you're trying to juggle it all. But I made a real conscious effort in the last probably 18 months or so to just be more open, and have been so pleasantly surprised about how supportive everyone is. Like, I felt like you couldn't sort of turn a meeting down because you had your child at home. And just by sending a message and putting an out of office on that said, I may not be able to get back to you straight away because I've got a sick child at home, people would be like, oh, this can wait, no problem at all. And, you know, the relief that it kind of gave me was so helpful. And I now try and set that example to everyone and say, you know, you don't need to hide it, because, you know, on some days your kids are more important and you'll more than pay that back on the other days when you can be focused on your job.
So what is Boots doing to support young women?
So as well as the working parents and caregivers group that we've got, there's also a women's group that does a lot that focuses on career development of women at work and how you can support them. They've done a whole load of events as part of International Women's Day, panel discussions, having inspiring speakers, all about embracing equity in the workplace in all forms, but particularly about how we can support women. There's also a partnership with Talking Talent, and they provide free online resources that help you before, during and after you go off on parental leave. So there's all sorts of advice and support that you can get, and for the individuals and for their line managers, because that's the other thing that we've realised. To get the right support as a parent or a caregiver, it's critical how your line manager is kind of upskilled and how they're able to support you during the process.
Because I think that is one of the biggest barriers. If you've got a young child, you know, I get asked this all the time, going, when do I bring up flexible working in the conversation? It's like, you know, you're going to get discriminated against if you say it before the interview, where you can't tell whether they're going to then give that job to, let's say, a guy who doesn't have the weight of childcare that I think a lot of women have on their shoulders. You don't know that. So you then end up not knowing when to bring it up. And I would love to know, just from Boots' perspective, this is the Flex Appeal hat, I'm really glad I get to ask this. How does Boots offer that flexibility? How is it done at Boots?
So there's all sorts of different forms, I guess, of flexible working. There's working fewer hours like I do, or fewer days. There's shifting the time, the pattern of work that you do, whether that's having kind of core hours that you always work and then working before and after. There are job shares that people have as well, and hybrid working's definitely benefited. Obviously, some of those forms of flexibility are more suited to some roles and some more suited to other roles when you look across kind of warehouse colleagues and then store colleagues and support office colleagues. But I think it's rare that there's not a form of flexible working that doesn't work for one of those roles.
And actually, I also think the words flexible working aren't even right to use. I think it's inclusive working. Anybody watching right now, please get stuck into the conversation. Let us know your experience. This is two-way. This is not just us broadcasting to you. Also remember, if you have any support needs, that you need support with childcare, or you need to work in a different way, remember the Prince's Trust is here for you across all sectors, public sector, private sector, retail, digital, the full career smorgasbord, I'm going to say. You can get involved. You could even actually launch your own business. The world is yours with this kind of support. Now we have a really short video from the Prince's Trust youth team. Over to you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kazzy and I'm a youth worker at the Prince's Trust. My advice to young women wanting to find a job or start a business is, number one, make a solid plan. Make sure, you've got a plan in place. If not, we can help you with that. Secondly, it's mainly about you, just believing in yourself. And I feel like if you don't believe in yourself, then no one else will. And we at the Prince's Trust can help you with that, because we are all about the empowerment, and that's what we do, especially to young women. If this sounds like something you want to do, then start a live chat with us, or you can call us, or you can fill out a short form and we'll get in touch with you and we can start your business. And I can't wait to hear from you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Team Prince's Trust. It's so good to know how you can get stuck in and how you can get supported. But what happens when you've got a foot in the door? How do you approach these big conversations about working alongside caring responsibilities? So Emily, this is the bit I've wanted to get stuck into, the human side of business. So what is the purpose of the Boots Working Parents and Carers group?
So we set it up with two main ambitions, really. One was to create this community of support, so that to raise awareness of the fact that we have people in our business that are parents and carers. Sounds quite obvious because most people have that responsibility at some point, but it felt like something that people didn't always bring to work. And to enable those people to share experiences, network, share hints and tips, and us to provide them with access to tools and resources to support them, kind of combining that balance of parenting and caring and working. The other ambition that we did set out with as well is to drive for change, to make sure that the support we're giving our team members is as good as it possibly can be, to ensure that their experiences of working and combining that with their personal lives is as good as it possibly can be.
Why was it important to you personally to sort of drive this change within Boots? Why does it matter to you?
I have got two children, they're 5 and 3, and I had two quite clunky experiences of maternity leave for a whole host of reasons. But it made me really passionate about making sure that other people didn't have to have the same experience. Many of the kind of challenges I faced were, in the scheme of things, so easy to combat and so easy to kind of to have not have had to experience. But particularly the first time you're going through it, you don't know what you don't know. So initially I came back, particularly after my second child, like anytime I found out anyone was pregnant or that their wife was, I would be going out to them going, congratulations, please can I share with you some advice and some hints and tips so that you don't have to have the same experiences that I had, which, there was some really positives, so I made sure I shared them, but also just some really practical tips and advice on how you can make sure the process is just more smooth, more seamless, and a lot less stressful in a time in your life where there's a lot of other change going on.
Well, it's so isolating, I think, these junctures in a woman's life. We spoke about it earlier, from period to menopause. There's such a misunderstanding, I think, in business on how to support. Why do you think other businesses need to have this approach?
I think it's important to support all of your team members with everything that they're going on. I think from a kind of resource group perspective, it's really important that it's employee-led and employee-driven. I don't think it's something the business should force on their employees, but I do think it's really important to help improve equity in the workplace while they're at work.
Well, we said this earlier, like we all turned up as we were today, exhausted, child-addled. This is us turning up as humans, and I think that we need that approach to being human in business, because we're not robots. We have these caring responsibilities, and I suppose for me personally, I'd love to know what sort of practical tips you could give young women listening right now, whether it's that juncture of returning, from motherhood, or actually navigating having a child already in the workplace?
I think my biggest piece of advice that I share with everyone is to try and prepare early. So I didn't really think about the return from maternity leave before I went off. And that was definitely something that I wished with hindsight I thought more about. I didn't know for sure whether when I returned, would I want to be full-time, would I want to be part-time, how will my priorities change? I had no idea. It was the first time I was experiencing things. But my approach was therefore at the time to kind of bury my head in the sand a bit and kind of deal with it as things arose. And once you've then got a child, you've got a huge period of like sleep deprivation. Your brain has been thinking about all sorts of very different things. And so to then suddenly think about all these things, I found it really challenging. So I think it's about preparing up front. Definitely then when you are returning, realising that your child, if you're putting them into childcare, is probably now going to pick up lots of bugs. And therefore, again, combining like kids' sickness with returning to work when you're already conscious about kind of putting your best self forwards, wanting to show that you are still the person you were before.
The burden of childcare still sits firmly on female shoulders. You think of, this is no diss to the brilliant key workers who work with my children, but it's always the mother that gets called up. It's always on our shoulders. And I don't think that's ever really factored into business. So the Prince's Trust Youth Index report has also found that 59% of young people would like to have a job that has a positive impact on society, and 70% are determined to achieve those goals. What I love about everybody sitting here right now is that they found their way through, but in their own way, whether that's through flexible working or whether that's having open communication with their boss or the support of the Prince's Trust. And Jess, let's start with you. So where are you at the moment work-wise?
I'm trying to get into a career with youth work, particularly just being inspired from the work that the Prince's Trust done with me and the other young individuals that I've met that have succeeded. So yeah, I'd love to go into some youth work. So I've applied to start my qualifications in youth work principles, and alongside that you've got to do some voluntary work. So I'm looking at the options in my local area with young people.
And do you feel like you'd be in that mindset and in that position without the course that the Prince's Trust work with you on? Do you think it's shifted how you see your potential?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I was in quite a negative mindset before the Prince's Trust, and I didn't know how to get myself out of it.
Could you describe that mindset, if you don't mind, because it might help other people who are sort of there at the moment?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I was really depressed. My anxiety was really bad. I was having panic attacks every day. That's why that's why I left work, because I was experiencing panic attacks in the job. So I was home with the little one. I didn't want to go out. I didn't want to try and get back into work because I knew how hard it would be. And just the emotions that I was going through, just not knowing how to regulate them and not knowing how to see the positives as well as the negatives. So I just took the jump. And when I got there, even the week that I was there, I still had the anxiety. I still had moments where I didn't want to be there, where I didn't feel like I was good enough to be there.
How did you help yourself get over all those hurdles, right?
Yeah. Honestly, for me, it was knowing that the other young people that were there were going through the exact same thing. So it makes you feel like your story is not as bad. So I would think, oh, well, they look like they're feeling a bit worse than I am. So what can I do to help them feel a little bit better? So I didn't like seeing that other people weren't very happy. So it kind of pushed me that if I'm helping them, it's also helping me a little bit.
Yeah.
And they did loads of tools and tricks and different activities to help us. The second day we went out on an outdoor activity, and that was quite anxious for me anyway. We all jumped on a bus, went somewhere we didn't know. But yeah, they took us rock climbing. And quite a lot of people in there were afraid of heights. I've never rock climbed before.
Well, you should talk to your mate here. She's really into the rocks.
I can tell you now, and when we went there, I reached the top. And that was purely just out of the encouragement from the staff and the other young people. And I was encourage everyone else to go.
This is
out
at the
there.
Prince's Trust.
They took us on a day out, so it weren't at the centre, but it was with the Prince's Trust on the course.
So you were at the top.
I reached the top, yeah, and then we had to try and jump down. But
And were you there as well?
Yeah.
Did you reach the top too?
Yeah, you said you wouldn't do it, would you?
Yeah,
you were
no,
like, she
I
was
was
like, I'm not doing it.
determined.
And we're like, no, you're doing it. And then she went all the way. It was like amazing, wasn't it? I think
Yeah.
a lot of us had tears that day.
it just gives you a bit of confidence that you tell yourself, I'm not going up there, I'm not climbing that, I'm scared of heights. And by the time you're getting up there, you've got a round of applause from everyone at the floor, and you're like, I've done it. Like, I actually did it.
When you have been so programmed to cry through sadness, it's so strange, that shift to crying at the top of a rock climbing centre or wherever it is. I was going to say, Keris, in that same vein, like that hill, that mountain, you know, that I think it feels like sometimes you have to climb, whether that's out of your own depression or your own trauma. Do you feel like that's what you're looking at sort of still almost with being at university? Is there a blockade in front of you? Or do you feel actually I can see the places that I can climb up now?
I think it's a bit of both. Like I still have some blockage from my trauma, but then I can also see like a little curve to avoid the hardness, like the hardship of it. So yeah, I think it's not as bad as that. Like what I think. I know I can do it, but it's just pushing my brain to be like, just do it instead of hiding.
Keep going, and then you've got her by your side going, get up there.
Like you're doing it.
Was it the Explore course that you went on? Was that the rock climbing, or was that the confidence course?
Confidence course.
You did the Explore course as well. What did that involve?
We went out to do different things like rock climbing, sailing. We did on, I believe, a Thursday, we helped in a hospital, like build a wellness centre, sort all things out.
How did it feel being, and I think we've experienced this, being Keris, not a mum?
I felt like lost, like I lost Keris when I became a mum. So when I was out doing things for myself, I felt selfish because like it should all be for Phoebe, right? Not for me. So it was really hard to start off with. I was crying quite a lot. And then I realised actually I need to better myself for Phoebe. I can't just all be for her because then I'm draining myself and then she has a tired mum. So it's kind of like just balancing. It's hard, but once you get there, it's quite nice.
Well, that's it. It's Keris and Phoebe's mum, not just Phoebe's mum.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads on really nicely to you, Abra, because we've got sort of, you're at that place where you are finding what you want to do and you've got the confidence to do that. You found what you want to do and you're now studying towards that. And it feels like you have found what you want to do and are actually doing it at the moment with Boots. How does that feel, working at Boots? Does it feel like success, I suppose?
It feels like a success, yeah. Because I've gained experience and I'm learning new things at the job. It's going to help you build your confidence. It's going to help you for your future as well.
What skills have you developed there, would you say? From the moment where, I don't know whether it was a guy or a girl, said to you, you don't have the work experience for this job, and you kept getting those knockbacks, which we've all experienced. How did it feel in that moment where you found the skill set that you maybe didn't think you had? What were those skills?
Customer service, communication, confidence, those are the skills I got from Boots. And what helped me most was when you help a customer and they're being kind back and they say thank you, you've been a good help. That helps boost your confidence as well.
And have you had that quite regularly?
Many times, yeah. So it's the staff and the atmosphere and the customers actually boost your confidence. So first, when you, before having experience, before having a job, you don't know how it's going to be like. But once you get out there, you're going to go further. It's going to push you forward.
Have you surprised yourself in this job?
I didn't know I would be doing this much, actually.
Does it surprise you that you're here talking about it today? Does it feel surreal?
It does.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be here if I had not done Prince's Trust. Like, I would probably be home just not doing anything.
Yeah. And do you do anything outside of work? So do you have hobbies?
I love art, so I draw things at home. I recently bought a laptop because I want to make projects, like animation projects for So it's going to be like mini animations that will spark a little hope in people. So that's what I'm trying to do in the future.
Emily, what are the things you're proudest of, would you say, at Boots? Coming back to that EQ, that empathy, that human journey I think we've all been on in our different ways.
I think aside from the day job aspects of things I've delivered, I'm really driven to try and improve the working life of as many people as possible. And it's a kind of theme, I guess, throughout my career at Boots. Earlier, when I was in the insights function, I set up a group called the People Champions, which was about making sure that everybody within our function kind of had a voice in understanding the direction that we were going, and that the senior leaders understood, I guess, the needs and the desires and the requirements of people within the team. And then most recently, obviously setting up the Working Parents and Caregivers VRG.
Can I just say, I'm so joyed that it is called the Working Parents Group, because so many times it's the Working Mothers Group, and I'm like, nope, we need both sets at the table, and we also need those outside of that echo chamber to listen. And we need people like you, to be honest, to be pioneering those conversations, and not just conversations, actions. Which is what brings me on to my next point. What is next for the Boots Working Parents and Carers Group to support young women specifically?
We had a number of listening forums over the last couple of months so that we could understand our members' experiences, what were the challenges they were facing when trying to combine work with their caring responsibilities, and where have they had successes. So our aim now is, I guess, we've got kind of 3 ambitions. Continue raising awareness. I think, like you said, if you can't see it, then you don't necessarily know you can be it. So making sure that we're profiling people in the business and getting them to bring their full selves to work, so that people understand that there are loads of people that have kids and have caring responsibilities that have also progressed into senior positions. We're really passionate about improving line manager support, because you mentioned about it's not just mums and dads, but it's also everyone else, all the allies that you need to support you. And we've kind of really found that how supportive your line manager is fundamental to the process that you've experienced with juggling parenthood and working. So we really want to make that as smooth and seamless as possible.
Well, it's so isolating, I think, these junctures in a woman's life. We spoke about it earlier, from period to menopause. There's such a misunderstanding, I think, in business. And I think to anyone listening right now, I think there's such an archaic layer to business that you need to look a certain way, maybe not have children, not have caring responsibilities, wear a suit. The old tropes of like the 80s, I think we're still unshackling ourselves from to an extent. And I think if you work at somewhere like Boots, you can not only just turn up as yourself, it's actively encouraged.
It is normal to feel worried about leaving your child at nursery, getting back into work, knowing what you're actually talking about, not just being a mum, but coming back to being yourself. And that it does take time to get back into it, and that you should give yourself that time and space. So I think what I also didn't know, and what was really good the second time around, was there is help and support available. There's training for returning to work. You can ask for support from a mentor. And that there's a BRG now for working parents and caregivers, which I think is great. It just brings together the people who are all feeling the same things in the same place. And I think it was just important for me to know that I will feel different. I do like being a mum, but also accepting that I do like being myself again, and I do like coming to work as well as being at home.
Boots supported me on my return to work by helping me adopt a more flexible working approach. For me, that looked like a job share, which was great. I'd not long returned after having a baby, so having that flexible working was great for me to spend more time with my family.
For me, it was all about taking the opportunity to do something I was passionate about outside of work. So I'd not long trained to be a yoga teacher, so that kind of extra couple of days a week to really focus on that really kind of helped me. Made me probably happier coming to work, because I knew that the rest of the week I was doing something that I was really passionate about.
So I recently returned from maternity leave, and there was a few tips that were shared with me, which I'm more than happy to pass on. So the first one being, just don't put too much pressure on yourself. I'm not the same person as before. The sleep is probably impacted, so always bear that in mind. Secondly, just be honest and open with your team, because they understand, and there will be times where you're not able to deliver in the way that you once did, but they will listen to you. Thirdly, nursery call me quite often with a different bug that my little girl has picked up. That's fine. That's the priority. Everything needs to drop when that call comes through, and that is completely accepted and normal. And thirdly, I think there's a support network. It might be that there's already one in your business. In Boots, we have a business resource group. But for me personally, it's about meeting a like-minded person for a coffee a fortnight and just chatting things through and feeling less alien. Basically, just be kind to yourself. This is a weird and wonderful situation, but so many people have been there before. Just look after yourself.
So that's the end of our Joy of the Journey masterclass with Boots and the Prince's Trust. Thanks to the power of YouTube, you can share this, you can rewind this, you can get stuck in whenever it suits you. For those watching live now, don't forget the competition. So if you registered with us, you will get a link to enter that competition. And for anyone watching after the broadcast date, don't miss the details of our next Joy of the Journey masterclass. Subscribe to our channel and also follow at Prince's Trust or boots.jobs on social media. I just want to say a really personal thank you to all the women on this panel today for opening up, sharing, and giving a blueprint to others to do the same. Whatever stage of that journey you're on, it can be joyful.